So you mentioned, as you travel around the world, and you and I had an association with LP for many years, Latin percussion, and I got a chance to go around and meet people all over the country on behalf of our artists, a lot of fans. Um, and I always say the thing about a fan is you can never get enough of what you're passionate about. So all the details, all the nuance, I want all the history, I want to know it all. But the other thing I find about musicians, the greatest ones, is they're always perpetual students, right? They're always trying to learn something new and develop their craft. They never feel they're done. What are you working on? What do you practice on these days? What's your new goal in life?
At my age, my new goal is to, believe it or not to play the same music. Some people say, oh, salsa band. I have done that. I don't regret doing it. But I like small groups where you could develop groups like, I forgot in the who I had been with, on and off, I suppose, all the recordings of Cachao. And Cachao spoiled me, because one of my favorite music is the jam sessions.
Descargas.
Because you start and you don't know where it's going to go. That's the real descarga. Now, if you have a descarga and then, okay, let's put this down, this and that, that's not a descarga.
16 measures of this,
yeah,
and go to that, and then,
no, let's do it and let's see where it's going to go.
Right.
And I tell you, I enjoy the hell out of that. And also the crossover music, I have recorded with guys like Steve Hunter. You will say, who is Steve Hunter? He's one of the guitar players, one of the heavy metal guitar players of those bands that Marilyn Manson and all those.
Sure.
Yeah, so I've been there. I've been there. Besides the salsa and the Latin rock, I've been doing all kinds of stuff, and I've still called for those things.
When you were with Pacheco and the Fania years, you could fill a whole stadium with crazy Latinos that want to dance and have fun. And you did the same thing with the Santana band, right? But it was a whole different crowd, whole different audience, whole different scene. What obviously playing with Santana all those years, touring the world and being seen by millions and millions of people. Even today, I'm sure somewhere on this planet, there's a Santana tune being played that you recorded on. Somewhere on this planet today.
Oh yeah.
At this moment, right now, you can bet dollars to donuts. Tell me about that experience for you. Somebody típico, somebody very rooted in their own culture and tradition, now going to, at the time, what was considered crossover, this rock Latin thing, and what was that like touring the world?
I had the help one more time of Armando that instructed me. I'm not going to go into details, like, if you want to be in this band, do this and do that, don't show off too much, don't play too much is bad, too little is bad. So move with the punches. That was Armando's.
Roll with the punch, and we know he was a boxer among many things.
And that worked. And we were fine for a certain amount of times, and then there was a time that I wanted to do something else, and they wanted to do something else, and we chose, and there was a comment like, I'm gonna say it, what the hell? Like Carlos said, well, there's no life after Santana. and I proved that there was life after Santana.
Oh, of course.
I have recorded with a lot of people and a lot of Grammys and nominations stuff, after Santana, and I'm still making it at 71, leaving out of those little 2 sticks and the little bongos.
And your heart.
So there is life as long as you want it to be to have life.
Well, it's the analogy in the world of academia, right, is I went to Harvard or I went to Yale, or for a sports team as I played for a Super Bowl team, or I played for this team or that team. But people get traded all the time, and people get a degree from Harvard and Yale and Stanford. It doesn't mean that you're less of bulldog for Yale or less of a John Harvard for Harvard.
Right.
He hired you for a reason, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. He told me that he had candles light up candles because he liked the way I play and that. Actually, the main guy that saw me before was an expert in rock and roll, but he was a great Palladium dancer, greatest promoter in the world, and he loved Cuban music. Bill Graham.
Bill Graham.
Bill took Carlos to see me
Mm-hmm.
play with Ray Barreto.
Mm-hmm. You know, people in the East Coast live their own world. They, like we said, they're 100%. You know, Cuban, Puerto Rican, Dominican. That's the mix, la mezcla.
Yeah.
Here, it's the world in the United States. 75% Mexicanos is the percentage for the United States, and in our particular region, you add Central Americans, Nicaraguenses, and Salvadoreños, and folks like you and me, the Caribbean diaspora out here. But Bill Graham is one of those names in California on the West Coast that really helped define the music and venues and styles, and he would mix things up, right? He'd have John Lee Hooker with Santana with, some
one of his
flower
favorite
child.
shows, it was like Grateful Dead and Tito Puente. He wanted those things together. He wanted to dance with Graciela, Machito's sister.
Now, today in this tech, now we live in the center of tech, they call it building communities, right? Mixing people of different backgrounds and uniting them with a tool or a technology and Bill Graham was building community way back when. He got it, right?
Yeah.
What's his biggest lesson or legacy to you?
Well, I hear that people say he was very tough, which he was. He was very strict in his productions and that. But he was always so nice and so respectful to my family in general, not just to me, to my wife and my kids. Mm-hmm. And it was unbelievable. His whole family. We went to Germany one time and his sisters owned a disco place. And we went there a day off and they cooked for us. I mean, they were really down to earth people, mm-hmm. beautiful people.
Well, because he was a fan first and foremost, right? The music came first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, Orestes, there's many students out there. I had this discussion with John, when you were growing up, there were things like union cards and nightclubs and labels and promoters and tour support and, all those things that define the record industry. That industry doesn't exist anymore. And yet, you were born with this gift, this need to make music. Cuando nací traje la música en mí, says the song. What do you tell that young person who says, I've heard it, it's Orestes Vilato, that's the man I want to follow, I want to be just like him. You can't squash his dream now, Orestes. I know there's no more music in it. Don't squash dreams, Orestes. But what would you tell somebody from the heart that it's not a question of if they're going to pursue music? They have to pursue music.
Okay. If they pursue it really serious, go back to the roots. Learn who was here before us, even before me, even before my father. Go to the roots, how it started, how it developed. Know every inch of a musician. That will never stop, because every day I learn a new name that I haven't heard before. And I've been in music 55 years.
55
Almost
years.
56 years.
Double nickels.
Okay? Now, I don't like when somebody says, I'm not going to mention name, but, oh yeah, this tune that was done in New York by this band. Okay. But who did it first? If you're a singer, you gotta know who did it first. So a lot of singers, a lot of people don't know who interpret things. The first people first musicians, first groups, or first singers that sang something. I still look for where that tune came from, and listen to the original. and then listen to what they did. Some of them do a great job. Other ones, it's not as good as the original.
Right.
But that you have to learn. If you're gonna be a baseball player, you have to know who Mickey Mantle is. You have to know with Willie Mays.
That's right.
And that's
Baby
it.
Bull, Orlando Cepeda.
Exactly. A musician, the same. You got to know who Alberto Ruiz was. You have to know who Cheo Marchetti is. If you're a sonero, you got to hear those tunes.
So, you know, and you're right. John Santos gave the same advice. Every major musician I've ever interviewed said the same thing.
Yeah.
Know the masters and stretch. Keep learning new styles, new approaches.
Even in American music was the same. I had an old friend that was a friend of my father that was a record collector. All he had was 78 records. And he called us one day when Elvis Presley had out Love Me Tender. And he said, you want to hear something? He put the record. And then he says, look at the original. He put some other record. It had been done before, the same way Elvis did it. So everybody comes from somewhere else.
Everybody comes from somewhere else.
We all come somewhere else.
Somebody told me last week in D.C. I was visiting, and they said, you know, we are the accumulation of our ancestors, right? And all those lives lead straight to us, and then from us continue. And the musical tradition is like that, isn't it? It's passed on, especially our musical tradition. Now you can see videos and go to school for it. But when you were growing up, you saw people play. Hopefully you got a lesson or two, but at the end of the day, you learned by being there. You learned by learning, imitating. And so I'm going to close today with Orestes. I'm going to pretend that we're going to build your musical foundation right now, brick by brick. And each brick is the name of an individual that you're standing on. Each brick is those people that your musical foundation. I'm not going to expect you to remember everybody, right? You've mentioned many people. But if I were to force you to say cinco, these 5 people, when I think about my life, these 5 people are clave.
You know, it's got to be more than 5, but I mean, you're going to be surprised, and people out there are going to be surprised that are not going to be, the first ones are not going to be percussionists.
Okay, hit me. Who?
Singers.
Who?
The feeling from Cuba. The thing about they call feeling. The emotional.
Feeling is a genre of very emotional, very romantic.
With a lot of chord changes. My modern music. I was listening to this music when I was a kid, and it's still my favorite. And people like Elena Burke, Miguel de Gonzalo, composers like Marta Valdés, Ella O Farrill. I mean, I have a long list of people that maybe people today don't know, but there is a side of a piece of that in my playing too. I said, how could it be romantic on a timbal player? There is, because you love your instrument. You got to play your instrument with love, not with hate. There's a lot of people that
right, a lot of energy.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
You hate what you're doing, or why don't you love it? To me, that's everything. And there's a piece of that in all good percussionists. Changuito one time from Spain sent me a cassette with Carol Steele.
Carol Steele.
Carol Steele from the Bay Area.
I spoke to Carol Steele today, and she mentioned to say hello to you.
Good. I saw her play bongos the other day. She turned it up on bongo. Anyway, send this tape of Changuito singing a tune, Madrecita, en El Día de las Madres. I said, is he crazy? She said to me, he knows you like feeling, and he sent you a tune sang by him. I still got the cassette somewhere. Most of the percussionists that are good percussionists listen to romantic music.
Well, percussionists have a bad rap, I have to say. First of all, we're being told to keep it quiet and keep it down all our lives, and I'm tired of that. But the second thing is that, you know, we're just insensitive lugs. And,
Yeah.
But I think about, and I'm going to challenge you to think about this too. Tito Puente, Ray Barreto, Mongo Santa Maria, John Santos, contemporary folks like Johnny Blas, or you know, our good friend. Why is it that so many percussionists are band leaders? And I'm going to challenge even the people listening.
I'm glad you mentioned Tito because I didn't want to forget Tito. But you know, we talked about my roots and that. Of course, in New York, you have to look up to Tito. Tito have done so much, not just for Latin music, but for the instrument itself.
For the instruments.
When he put the timbales in front of the band and he started dancing with the two girls and made the timbale an attraction, everybody started. With Caco, Orlando Marin, Willie Rosario, they all became band leaders. So we timbaleros of the world owe Tito that. And keeping up with the romantic scene, Tito was a fan of Elena Urque, and you know when he played that vals, that was the most romantic thing in the world.
Okay? The world knows him as a timbal player and a band leader, and you know.
Yeah.
Come on, he's on The Simpsons. He must be important, right? He's a Simpsons character too. But when you hear that man play marimbas or vibes, his level of mastery was
because he was romantic. He was romantic.
Well, and also incredibly trained, Juilliard graduate. You know, we have to remember that when Tito Puente went to Juilliard, they wouldn't even let Latinos in the building. You know.
Let me mention another one that was graduated from Juilliard, Luis Ramirez. He used to be my producer in some of my records. Luis was another virtuoso, all around, all around.
Somebody you're working with that I've had a chance to collaborate a lot. You mentioned John Santos, but another gem in your Machete band and John Santos' sextet is the great John Calloway, who is both, you know, he arranges many of the tunes, he's written many of the tunes. Tell me about John Calloway.
John Calloway is a man of a few words, and he's usually a quiet person. But lately, and I told him this, he is happier. He's smiling, and I guess his love life is really making him happy. So we're all glad for John.
We all deserve happiness. Yes. I think the couple of gray hairs too have a tendency to mellow you out a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, Orestes, I've known you, gosh, almost now 25 years. You know, somebody I've always admired and respected. These interviews are done for a reason. I'm very clear that we have treasures here on the West Coast, and our Latino young people and music lovers all over the world deserve that knowledge from the masters, and they also deserve the pride that knowing your culture gives you. Cultura cura, the way they say.
Yeah.
And your music ha curado many people all over the world. So on behalf of all those people that are watching this, I want to thank you as a fan and as somebody who pretends to play percussion. To see you, every time I see you, I know I'm seeing living history. I'm seeing that chain of masters going.
I appreciate that, and all I have to say is that I hope, my hope is that I will keep making people happy out there and making them dance and positive energy to everybody, and let them know that I'm still very active. And you know, I travel. I don't do club dates, but you know, jazz festivals. I go to Japan. I went to Japan this year. I went to Miami International Festival. I went last year to Puerto Rico to record with Gilberto Santa Rosa, and you know, a lot of things like that. I'm stretching it out, taking the jobs that I think they're good for me.
If you want to hire Orestes Vilato though these days, you know, and I'm living in his palace right now, you better be ready to send a limo and a first class ticket and have him be the highest paid guy on the stage. First of all, because he deserves it. But second of all, that's where you are in your career right now, aren't
Well,
you?
I appreciate that. I have to remember when we moved to the Bay Area, the first guy that called me was Tito Puente. And he said, "Ben, you did the right thing at the right time." And that was, I appreciate that a lot. He's concerned that, like he said one day, we're going to play music on the moon. So that means just let the people
Everywhere.
hear the
That's
music. The music heals, and that's what we're trying to do.
Well, if Tito's light shone like a lighthouse in New York and shown the world, then your lighthouse has been here. You didn't have to, you don't move lighthouses, right? You don't send them around. You put them in a place firm and have them light up the world around them. And that's what you've done for us on the West Coast. So thank you, Orestes Vilato.
I appreciate it.